Hello, everyone, and welcome to a little bit of this and that. I am your host, Aaron, and today on the show, I am talking to Astrid Michaels, who's a fellow podcaster, sexual assault survivor, and advocate working to change the world. Let's meet Astrid. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Astrid. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. What about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy that you could join me.
I'm happy to be on here.
We go back a few years. You worked for me when we both worked at Southern Arkansas University. I was your resident director, and you were my RA, and you were one of the best.
Yes, that was like one of the best jobs I've ever had.
Well, I'm so glad that hopefully I got to help you get a great experience, because I know we both had interesting experiences at SAU that didn't end well. As much as that sucks, I'm so glad I got to meet you, because you're such a wonderful person and you're strong and just brave. And I really respect everything that you're doing.
I really appreciate that. I mean, you're definitely one of the few positive experiences that I have from that school. Really like our little honors hall family.
Yeah, if it wouldn't have been for all of you, I probably would have left sooner if I could have been able to, but it was all of you that just made me stay made me stay until I was kind of pushed out.
For sure.
Because I know they like to spin their own little story, and I'm not trying to talk negatively about anyone. I'm just talking about my truth and what I experienced. About just everyone who I was really close to there think I just left and abandoned them, when that really wasn't the case. So it is what it is. But today we're here to talk about you and what you're doing. And I know you've started a podcast called It Feels Like Home. Will you tell me a little bit about what it's about, what it covers, and just anything you'd like us to know?
It basically takes a look at the documented history of various scandals and abuse at Southern Arkansas University. And we also have a lot of guests that will call in, or if they want to stay completely anonymous, I'll read the story for them. And they'll basically tell their story of, what happened while they were at the university and how it was handled.
So why did you want to tell this story?
I believe it was April of this year. I've been making various posts on Facebook about this ongoing drama with the university. They were trying to add charges to my account, despite the fact that I left their school almost 2 years ago now. They were trying to add like thousands of dollars to my account, saying that I owed them all this money. And that had been going on for, months and months, and they were relentless about it. They sent like a credit collection company after me. It was just ridiculous. And they weren't listening. And the more I posted about it, the more people kept coming back to me saying, oh, this exact same thing happened to me, or a similar thing happened to me. And they were just as relentless to me about it. And so I started to see a very distinct pattern.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that it was really important that people understand, like, it's not just a couple of students, it's a lot of people.
We don't have to talk about anything you don't want to talk about, but didn't you experience sexual assault while at SAU?
I did, yeah.
And if you're comfortable, I'd like to just kind of talk about how they handled it. What did you like? How do you feel like they did as a university to handle something like that?
Well, so about a year before the assault, I had a sexual harassment case that I brought. And that was completely disastrous. The response time and like trying to get a hold of people just right off the bat it was a headache and a half. It was like it just wasn't a priority, and I tried to have a meeting with Dean Baker, who's on the Title IX board, just to discuss, how I felt the case had been handled and to better understand each other's perspectives. I didn't want to attack him by any means. I just wanted to talk face to face. And I don't think that meeting even lasted 5 minutes because he just became extremely sensitive and defensive. He started to yell. I mean, his entire face and neck were just completely red. And I just didn't feel comfortable with staying. And just the fact that somebody who's like in that kind of position of power, that they would be like that unprofessional, it just kind of like, it blew my mind.
Man, I'm so sorry that happened, because I know anytime something like that came up to me, because as a resident director, I was one of the, like, the RAs were our first line. And when y'all would come to us, we are there to take it to the more professional staff because we're just resident directors. And I know anytime something like that came across to me, I wanted to make sure, one, we protected the person and they knew what their rights were and all of that. So to know that when it went farther, that y'all weren't getting the help you needed just really breaks my heart.
I mean, definitely.
They make it look like, yeah, like I just, it breaks my heart that that happened to you. And I know it's happened to other people because of your podcast, I have heard other stories, and it's just, it's shameful.
I totally understand and like empathize with that, because I mean, when I was a resident assistant, like you said, like that's one of our resources that we have to use. We don't really have another option, quite honestly. And so you're kind of put in this forced complacency, and it really sucks. But I ended up not reporting the assault because of my experience with reporting that harassment.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
So I know you're helping tell other people's stories that you've heard, and through your podcast, there's been quite a few. So what do you hope to accomplish?
We really hope to accomplish, myself and the entire coalition that's kind of associated with the podcast. We really hope that SAU will take the time to like listen to current and former student and employee feedback and completely redesign and add new people to the Title IX board to start with, to better address the needs of victims and the rights of victims.
I can tell from what you're doing. You're doing a lot of great work, and it takes a really strong person to not be afraid to speak up about sexual assault or being abused or just treated unfairly by university. I mean, that's a hot topic right now, is Title IX and sexual assault and all of that. So I really applaud you for everything you're doing. And I know you have a petition, and is it still ongoing?
Yes, it still should be located on our link tree.
And that's that's on your social media sites, which is It Feels Like Home.
Yeah, It Feels Like Home podcast, Facebook. It's a Facebook page.
Now, is there anything you would just like to say about your experiences with working with this podcast?
I think the most important thing that I can say is, I think it's really easy sometimes to get stuck in this like thought of, well, I'm just one person, I can't make a difference, nobody's going to listen to just one voice. And I was definitely kind of stuck in that for a while. I mean, myself. But if you get loud enough, you will find other people that will be attracted to that, and that will start speaking just as loudly with you. And you will start to make a change. It'll take a while. You definitely have to persevere, but you can be successful, and you can make yourself heard.
And that's awesome. And all it takes is one voice to make a change.
Exactly.
And I can tell your voice and those working with you, y'all are definitely going to make a change. And I look forward to.
I appreciate that.
Your podcast is It Feels Like Home, and that's on anywhere you stream podcasts, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then your social medias are just It Feels Like Home podcast, correct?
Yep, on Facebook.
Because I want to make sure people know where they can find it so that they can hear more about your story and other people's stories. and, sign that petition and help make a change happen, because together we can make changes in this world, and changes need to happen.
Absolutely.
And I do know, real quick, because you have a second podcast, and just, do you want to tell us about that one?
Yes. So I do have a second one, and it's called Subterfuge in Shalimont Park. It's a true crime investigative podcast about a childhood friend of mine who went missing in 2015, and her name is Ebby Stepik.
Okay. I've heard of that story, so I applaud you for also trying to bring awareness to an unsolved case, because I watch a lot of true crime and shows like that, and it may take a while, but a lot of times some of those crimes do get solved, and it's because of people who won't stop sharing the story.
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, she deserves, justice, and her family and friends deserve, peace of mind and closure.
And where can we listen to that one or learn more about it?
It's also available wherever you stream your podcasts. But we also have a Facebook page. It's just called Subterfuge in Shalimont Park. And we have a Instagram and Twitter also under the same name.
I hope everyone will check that out, because I've known Astrid for a few years now, and she puts in the work. She was one of my best RAs who I always knew was going to give 110% no matter what she did. And I really respect you in all aspects.
I really feel the same way, because you allowed me to flourish and put in that effort, because you were such a great leader to all of us.
Well, thank you. All right. Well, is there anything that you would like to add? Anything that we didn't talk about that you want people to know?
Like I said earlier, perseverance, I think, is key, not only in the podcasting and, justice world, but just in life in general.
Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you being open and honest and willing to talk about such a sensitive subject that I know a lot of people are really afraid to talk about.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for allowing me to on here.
All right. Well, that's all for today's episode. And again, I just want to thank you for joining me, Astrid, and sharing your story. Make sure you check out Astrid's podcast, It Feels Like Home, wherever you stream your podcasts. And I will talk to you next time. Bye.